athletes can choose to compete for the sport in which they gender identify with.
No one thinks it's fair because we all know that males are physically stronger than females and they compete at a higher level.
What's up? Welcome back to my channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. Hopefully you're watching it within the first 60 seconds of me uploading it because you know to hit that bell and you're hanging on my every word. Hopefully that's when you're watching it. So today's video is a trans-related topic that I actually have never spoken about. Shocking, I know. I feel like I've talked about everything, all things to do trans, but I have not talked about this yet, so you don't know my opinion yet. So the topic is trans sports, trans athletes, specifically male to female athletes playing in women's leagues, women's sports. Oh, before I forget though, I definitely want to make sure that I thank everyone who came to the Los Angeles show recently. It was so much fun. It's kind of new for me to do live events, and so I'm really getting the hang of it. I'm really enjoying it. The meet and greet was also awesome, meeting all of you guys. And just my luck, after the show at the meet and greet, the first person in line, the first girl, started bawling when she hugged me, which you guys know I'm a crybaby, so I was crying. I got it together though, and it was so much fun meeting you guys. Leave in the comments below what city I should come to next, because I definitely want to do more shows. But on to the topic of the video. So I have to start off this whole trans sports thing with some transparency about where I am coming from, which is the perspective of not knowing anything about sports. I had never been into sports. I'm the kind of person that in social settings, when sports references are made, they go right over my tranny head. I have no clue. So that had to be said, I feel like, for me to do this video. So probably the most famous transgender athlete on a high level is Fallon Fox from the MMA. Just learned that acronym. So feast your eyes on this video of Fallon Fox taking her opponent down in 39 seconds.
These girls are getting right into it. Fox to the knees, and that's it. Fallon Fox.
It was also reported in a fight after that she broke her opponent's skull. Broke the skull. This happened in the first round, in the first 2 minutes. She literally walked on stage, broke her skull, and won. And I'm sorry, but you'd have to be a complete idiot to think that Fallon Fox does not have at least somewhat, like maybe you don't want to go all the way, but at least somewhat of a biological advantage over her opponent. Hormones or not, surgeries or not, Fallon Fox actually transitioned late into her adulthood, which means she went through an entire male puberty, developed entirely male, and then transitioned. So when it comes to things like bone structure, which are irreversible in transition, we're talking wrist size, hand size, finger size, elbow size, joint size. They're all thicker than her biological female opponents. Now, obviously, when it comes to fighting, the size of those things are very important to fighting and hitting someone. I like to think my hands aren't that big, but this isn't about me. Okay. And this issue of trans people in sports is not secluded to just professional sports. It is also affecting high schools. Check out this mini documentary from a high school in Connecticut.
A transgender high school athlete who is biologically a male took first place in both the 100 and 200 meter dash at Connecticut's Girls Track and Field State Championships.
When I'm at the start of the race, when I'm lining up and getting into my blocks, everyone already knows the outcome. Those two athletes are going to come 1 and 2, and everyone knows it. No one thinks it's fair because we all know that males are physically stronger than females and they compete at a higher level.
For, like she said, everyone to go into it already knowing the outcome, to me is a problem. In my opinion, and this is me setting aside every bit of bias that I may or may not have as a trans woman myself, it seems to me that the titles that these young girls are working so hard for are being taken, and it's really not fair. So here is a solution that I feel like no one ever talks about. Puberty. Now, you all know my opinions on trans kids, trans preteens, etc. I am against children transitioning. I've made no bones about that. Talked about it plenty of times. However, my own personal opinions and feelings really does not change the fact that it happens. If there is a male to female trans student who never went through a single day of male puberty, I could conceivably think that that person probably has no advantage over the other girls in the class and probably should just be allowed to play sports on the team that she wants. But it starts getting dicey when, of course, in the case of Fallon Fox, when someone transitions as an adult and has all the advantages of a male puberty, or even students that transition at 16 or 17 and then want to play, they still have those few years of male puberty that will set them at an advantage, whether it be height, whether it be bone density, whether it be bone structure. So to me, it goes back to puberty. I think puberty should determine what team you play on. I know it's not the politically correct thing to say, okay? But there are levels to being trans. There are trans women that look like this, and there are trans women that look like this. One of these things is not like the other. So even amongst trans women, this trans woman could absolutely pummel and demolish and probably break the skull of this trans woman. Levels to this. Some people say, well, maybe there should be a transgender only league or team of all of these sports. And that presents a problem just because I feel like, especially at the high school level, I don't think any one high school has enough trans kids to fill up a team. Some people say maybe trans people should cut their losses and not play sports at all. That to me is unfair because I feel like there's a lot of studies that show that in terms of development for teenagers and kids, sports can be very vital and very important. So I think that no one should be left out of that. See, the issue arises when people go off of just what you identify as.
The CIAC says that athletes can choose to compete for the sport in which they gender identify with.
And I'm sorry, but there's a difference between what you identify as and what the biological reality is. Having said that, I am trans myself, I'm short, I have a small frame, I am a small person in general, kind of left out in that sense. And there are plenty of female athletes that could absolutely wipe the floor with me. Female athletes in the comments, just comment what sport you want to beat me in because you can do it. Any of them, pick one. However, exceptions to the rules should not dictate the rules. Sports teams are segregated for biological reasons. Therefore, even for trans people, you have to take biology into account. And it should not just be based on identity. It should be based on their bodies and their puberty they went through. How early did they transition? How late did they transition? I think all of that matters. This is just going to be some tough love to trans people out there who follow me. This is just the real, okay? Not every lane is your lane. Not everything's for you. There are certain things I've accepted are not for me. I was at the gym recently and Joey went into the men's shower afterwards, the men's locker room, changing room, whatever you want to call it. And I said, okay, I'll just wait for you in the lobby. I'm not going to go into the locker room or the changing room myself. And he asked me why and he looked a little confused, which was funny. And I was like, Joey, like, you don't understand. I do not want to make anyone uncomfortable. I know my body and I know that from here up, you know what I mean? Everything's copacetic. But if I'm changing in public in a room full of women, you know, obviously I have something else down there and I could potentially make people uncomfortable around me. Does that mean I'm some sort of predator or a bad person? Obviously not, but I also know that not everyone is accustomed to seeing someone like me completely naked, and then that I'm not going to do that to the girls around me. I live a beautiful life, I am happy, but I know there's certain lanes that I don't go into, and it's fine, because there's also certain lanes that I can go into as a trans woman that other people can't. Does that make sense? And I think that's it for this video, you guys. Comment below. I want to hear everyone's thoughts. I read every single comment. Make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell, and also consider being a member of this channel. It helps me out more than I could ever say, and you get exclusive videos no one else can see but you. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.